Now let's talk about the healthcare system a little bit and the changes we made and where we're going today. So all I'm going to do, again, glancing below on our strategic plan for the future and expansion is, whether we like it or not, in this complex world of healthcare, size does matter now. And you're going to see more and more collaboration occur, and mergers and acquisitions and things like that. We are positioning ourselves to grow continually and be a multi-regional system and affiliate both inside our state and outside our state. That is fair to say, but we want our world headquarters to remain in Greenville, South Carolina. So that's part of our strategy. So we're bigger than folks might expect in Greenville, SC. We're now ranked the 14th largest public hospital in the United States. About eight campuses. We're 100 years old, 102 actually, just over 15,000 employees. We do about 700 human research studies a year, big clinical trials house, about 365 clinical trials, about 5,000 students actually physically on our campuses every year. And we have major presences of our university partners on our campuses. So I won't go into all these things, just understanding, about 1,700 beds. We're about $3.5 billion in outpatient service revenues, et cetera. So pretty good size, not massive, but getting bigger. Okay, whether you're in Kansas or whether you're in South Carolina, because you got to understand the industry you're in, both healthcare and life sciences, what's going on, what are the trends, and then how do you match up and how are you mitigating some of the challenges. So we just embraced the fact that you'll hear our CEO talk, he'll start, healthcare is broken in this country. We're not defensive about that, we just want to be part of the solution. So our vision is very simple: transform healthcare. And everything we're doing, we try to measure against a simple vision statement of transforming healthcare and trying to be part of the solution. Interesting stat, though, I think, is 30% of all U.S. hospitals currently have a negative operating margin. That's a serious issue. 71 rural hospitals have closed in the United States since 2010. So that just gives you, average margin is about 1.5% for healthcare providers. So while there's tons of volume that we've been addicted to, there's tons of cost and waste. So we've also embraced the idea, again, everything has a life cycle. And whether you're talking about buggy whips, travel agents, record stores, independent bookstores, a lot of stuff many of us enjoyed, not the millennials, but healthcare is also got a life cycle and it's changing. And we are having to move away from our addiction to fee for services and volume to a whole different approach to healthcare. And we put it under a topic called population health management. And so what are we doing about that if we believe that? First off, we're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're saying we have to invest in certain areas even while we cut budgets in other areas to do the right thing. But bottom line, we're committed to academic medicine. So this was a big city move for a large hospital in South Carolina that was dabbling with academic medicine. So we invested $120 million to launch a 4-year med school. And while our institutes and schools are affiliated formally with our research university partners, they grant the degrees. We largely fund them other than receiving tuition. But and we realized in a small tribal state we couldn't get everything we needed from University of South Carolina, who's great in public health, has a med school and a pharmacy school. Clemson does not. Clemson, which is right next to Greenville, though, Clemson is probably top 5 in the world in bioengineering, advanced materials. Sound familiar, Wichita State? And informatics, supercomputing. They're very complementary. So while very competitive on the ball field, very complementary in this space. And we needed both. And we've got another terrific university embedded in the heart of Greenville, Furman, that is all about workforce of the future. So our academic health center brand, I want to stress this because I know we got a lot of university partners in there today, and with healthcare, we had to take the lead as the healthcare system, and so we're a little more like a Mayo Clinic or a Cleveland Clinic model that has a big provider in the middle with universities wrapped around it. But we have foundational agreements and board seats with all 3 of those universities, and we have a almost shocking level of integration between our clinicians and our academic partners. So more on that later. I'm used to right click. Population health. Here's my oversimplified bottom line on that. Some stats would indicate that 2 to 3% of the US population consumes as much as 30 to 40% of all healthcare resources. So it's just a devastating problem. And when we look as the largest healthcare system in our area and pushing 300,000 emergency room visits a year, and often have the same customers coming back over and over, not managing their chronic diabetes condition, or a single mom just, for a cold or this or that. So you start having to address how do you actually reduce the number of your citizens that need to use your ER for primary care. That's just kind of one root cause thing. So we're having to invest, spend money. We've launched, we didn't realize it was going to be as big as it is. Our accountable care organization, ACO, My Health First, we launched it about 3 years ago. It's now the 5th largest in the country. We've launched a care coordination institute, all about clinical integration. We got boots on the ground. What are some of the challenges to going to a better model? Its bottom line is it costs us more than we're making right now. It actually reduces our revenue to do some of these things. To get over that addiction, to make the change, we've had to make the choice that this is going to improve on the back end. So I'm going to blow through the idea of total health, but it's all about, you talk to guys like Chris and me, and what we have to make sure is mission-centric is how do we reduce cost, increase quality, and increase access? How do we move from volume to value? And so a lot of the technology solutions we're looking for need to do that. Now let's build this case for healthcare innovation. And when we got some of our out-of-state experts, PricewaterhouseCoopers came in to help muscle up our operational plan for innovation, because they'd done it for a lot of admired institutions. One of the big points they made with us is this: industry. Industry needs to be your partner in a big way. And they are looking to academic health centers to play a much larger role in innovation. And here's the interesting thing though, less than 5% of university research is funded by industry. So it's something really to be tapped, and yet industry is 70% of all R&D funding in this country. So that is something we're definitely paying attention to. Here's that ecosystem I was telling you about. And the only reason I show this visually, there's that ICAR campus I was telling you about. And what is it doing on a healthcare innovation model? We literally took the same ingredients, a lot of the same funding strategies and approaches, and created an ICAR for cancer called ITOR. And it's a multifaceted research institute. We made ICAR for bioengineering. That's Cube Inc. Clemson has a huge bioengineering presence on one of our clinical campuses, and then launched a 4-year med school while the community and the chamber and others were building up the entrepreneurial economic development hub. So this is how we started moving it all forward. What do? The bottom line, Research Development Corporation, I'm a 501c3, not-for-profit supporting organization of GHS. I look a lot like a private sector company, because we can invest, we can co-brand, we can share revenue, can form LLCs, C Corps. It's just any profit, the nonprofit term, positive net revenue we generate has to support research, education, innovation, 501c3 compliant. It's probably important to have one of these in the mix. And while we are related to GHS, we end up having kind of a community role in this. So when I get out of bed every day and my team, we're focused on 3 things: tech transfer, business development, and economic development. I'm going to tell you just a touch about those, and then kind of wrap up with our economic development strategy for healthcare. So tech transfer, bottom line, I've got 6,000 clinicians, and there are some really smart people, and we've got some rock stars who are very inventive. Here's another encouraging note. I don't know what the situation is in the local Wichita hospital, but we did not care about tech transfer at GHS for decades. We gave it away, and we didn't support our clinicians who had great ideas but needed support because they were busy clinicians. So it's been exciting in just the last 2 years to launch all that, to reactivate an intellectual property policy and try to be an agile, nimble support office for that. So bottom line, any of our clinicians have a strong idea that we believe has commercial viability, we'll take it end to end with them. And we share royalties 50-50. We just want to foster the culture. Business development is a bigger area for us. That's where basically we are a giant test bed laboratory for industry. And I think we understand that, we embrace that. So we don't You know, I think Chris said earlier, literally thousands of companies he vets. It's almost an avalanche sometimes of the number of companies wanting to partner or collaborate with us, and we have to bring rigor and discipline to it, because even if we wanted to work with everybody, we simply can't. And when we're pulling clinicians out of the clinic to get involved in research initiatives, we need a pretty compelling reason and a model to do that. So business development for us is huge. And then finally, economic development. And a lot of people said, why are you in economic development as a healthcare provider? I think it was said this morning by your Commerce Secretary and a couple of other people. Here's what we really believed. We understood, because we're the largest employer in Greenville and we are the largest healthcare system in the state, whether we intend to or not, we make an economic impact. We have a role. So the first basis was as simple as that. Okay, we clearly make an economic impact, so do we get strategic about it to leverage it better for the community and ourselves, or do we just kind of take an ad hoc approach and see what happens? So my unit was charged with develop relevant economic development strategies that leverage that role. And what we said is, if we're gonna focus some on economic development, because our fear was it was going to look like a dilution of our healthcare mission, that we weren't as focused on treating patients and advancing clinical care and mission creep. But the bottom line, as I told you earlier, that socioeconomic story, what we learned is socioeconomics, and this is data-driven, a lot of research behind this. Socioeconomics will do exponentially more to either improve the health of the region that we're in, or the health gets worse than anything we can do as a hospital, especially until we really reinvent healthcare in this country the way we're trying to. So it became relevant for us to say, if we're actually helping expand the economy and creating jobs, particularly in the healthcare and life science sector, that will do more to help create a situation with less of our citizens using the ER for primary care, improving readmission rates post-surgery, because people are not just surviving, they're listening to their doctor, to weight management, to smoking cessation, and all those other things. So that's kind of the basis. The only reason I show you this one, you don't have to read these guiding principles. This is my safe harbor. Every deal I look at, the reason it's important is what's in red. Was this easy? Was this something we just got out of bed one morning and said, gosh, wouldn't it be great if we did all this neat? You know, this scared the heck out of a lot of our administrators. I can tell you, our general counsel, I'm a lawyer who likes to build stuff. He's the lawyer to keep me out of jail, I guess, because I'll probably push the envelope. But the point was, he's like, you're creating exposure and variables and all that, and it does have to be navigated. You have to respect the ocean you're in legally and otherwise. Our CFO, what is this going to cost me? What is the ROI? How long does it take to get royalties from this? So believe me, we had some very transparent. I met with our executive team about every week at 7 a.m. for 3 months to throw rocks at this, because we said we either have to be serious about it or let it go, because we can't dabble. Dabbling is dangerous. So they authored, the CFO and the general counsel, who were probably most against this concept, are the ones who authored the guiding principles that drive us forward. So that was a pretty big win. So this is as an encouragement again, because we went from no tech transfer at our healthcare system and an inactive IP policy. In the last right now we have 23 clinician inventions coming through our system, and they range everything from electronic stethoscopes to endometriosis screening tools to a chest tube stabilization device. A lot of device technologies because of that Clemson bioengineering and our powerful Department of Surgery and what have you. In the last 18 months, filed 9 patents, and we don't award ourselves on how many patents. Is there a compelling market need? A lot of things, again, that Chris kind of mentioned. 3 of those technologies were licensed, 1 spin-out company. So that's just something, without going detailed here, we're going to build on that. The bigger area, business development. So right now, this is straight out of my database. This week we have 68 companies that we would consider legitimate business collaboration partnership opportunities right now that we're working on. And it's quite a triage process to go through that and determine which ones really make sense to involve our clinicians and thought leaders in. Maybe more importantly, it was interesting to us, with the doors of the RDC have only been open for two years, and basically to see, okay, what kind of companies are we attracting? So you see a really healthy number of early stage startup companies, because we are building that ecosystem now. We have about 60,000 feet of wet labs at GHS that are devoted to being an innovation zone for primarily bioengineering related research and cancer related research. But we have a lot of young companies that are in the midst, and they're working shoulder to shoulder. We like cross-pollination, but with faculty researchers of Clemson and USC and Furman are in those labs, as well as private sector companies, as well as our clinician inventors. So it is that interesting mix in body contact sport, and we think that's partly why we're capturing some lightning in a bottle. I'm not going to go into this other than I was going to say one case study for us was cancer. How do you go from good ideas to implementation and make it real? What I will say is in 2004, we launched a clinical research unit that has now become one of the more nationally prominent units for clinical trials for the newest, most experimental cancer drugs. We had patients fly to Greenville last year from Australia, Europe, New York, Boston, because we were the only site in the world for certain experimental drugs. That became powerful. We built an institute around that called iTour I was telling you about. We have, and that has led to 5 major pillars over really the last 5 years that have been established. Starting with that clinical research unit, we now have a rapidly developing tissue bank. We have the innovation zone I was telling you about, a clinical genomics center where basically we are able to do molecular profiling on site quicker at less cost and with our own product, by the way, and a rare tumor center. Some of the way we partner with business is really bootstrapping. I'm going to tell you, it's not fancy sometimes, and that's where I want to take it. We're not typically inclined to just invest money. It's more about bringing our best resources and core competencies to the table with multiple partners. So we've devised our own molecular panel. Our oncology leaders working with some of our industry partners have our own product out in the marketplace now. So those are things I could spend more time talking about, but I won't. I'm going to wrap with this. So what you're looking at is just kind of a map that would be meaningless here, other than I would tell you this is that 85 corridor, and this is kind of one of the most underdeveloped gateways into Greenville if you're coming from Atlanta. The other side of town, explosive growth. This side, frankly, more poverty, more blue collar type stuff, but it moves right into toward the entrance of the city. That big green dot, that's our flagship Memorial Campus, about 130 acres, 1.5 million square feet. Med school, cancer institutes, anatomy labs, sim center, huge resource sitting there. But in some ways, like I say, in one of the most underdeveloped parts of the community. And now we're this rising academic health center that has committed our future with 3 university partners to building a brand and being the 100th in the country. And we said, okay, let's take that ICAR idea again and that research triangle park concept in North Carolina that's even more regional and see what kind of story we can build. And this is saying, as the healthcare system, we're involved and we have a vital role. We even understand that we've had to kind of lead the facilitation of this, but we aren't looking to own one piece of the property on that corridor. We're not looking to own one building. We understand we're a catalyst and a magnet, and that we're going to have to partner with industry. We're going to be the #1 reason industry comes along with our academic partners. So this is a huge community endeavor. City, county, region, state, private community, private landowners, private developers. It is a complicated kettle of fish, but it's a lot of fun on the good days. Some days it's just hard, but pretty inspiring work. So we're looking at literally not one campus like ICAR, but a chain of campuses with some different purposes. And again, it's all about converging industry, academia, healthcare. One of the roles of my team for the healthcare system is to be engaged every day with the economic development agencies. Somebody's got to get out of bed and forge those strategies. We've got about 1,200 acres that we're looking at 3 main areas, 3 landowners that we're in very strong alignment with and working with all the public partners. I show you this only to be hopeful too. So how do we go from concept to where we are today? The yellow area next to our big main campus, that was where we thought that's oceanfront. We could look at a whole new gateway coming into Greenville, high energy, mixed use area that's walkable to all of our resources. And then we did a density concept that sort of shocked people. Said out of the 1,200 acres, we could do probably about 2 million square feet just on the first 11 to 20 acres. completely changed the access to our ER and whatever. And so we literally started doing traffic studies with the community and are now working on an entirely new entrance. We're literally rolling a freeway back, creating a grand boulevard to open up the land and frankly to make ambulance access to our ER about 6 minutes faster. That led to now a legitimate master plan that we're getting funded and unfolding. And hopefully in 2018, a lot of this will be breaking ground. Concurrently with that, because of our advanced manufacturing strategies and the companies that are interested in Greenville, some terrific raw land still sitting out there with 150,000 cars a day going by it on 85 between Atlanta and Charlotte. And that is where we're focusing our energy on how to build under the same brand of IMED, Innovations in Medical Economic Development, our advanced manufacturing campus for pharma device companies. And right now we have multiple active projects. We're looking at about 500,000 square feet. So industry is responding. Can't really go into that too much other than saying what we've gotten is a nice nod from life sciences saying between the community, industry's belief in us that they can actually tap into our research, education, innovation, clinical infrastructure, and our industry partners, they are interested. So the story is out, and I'll wrap with this slide just to say, again, when we were going into this, I mean, you've heard some of the battle scars, and that 10 years ago, I had no story to tell you in this area 10 years ago. We looked at Texas Medical Center from 1950, kind of an empty plat near downtown Houston, to now they are the 18th largest economy in the United States by themselves. They overtook petroleum as the largest economic driver in Houston over 10 years ago. 21 hospitals, 11 universities, 110,000 employees, you know, about 23 billion a year impact on the city of Houston. We looked at Pittsburgh collapsing with the steel industry, total reinvention through the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, bringing 14 hospitals together, the university partners, and again, so when you get deliberate, the profound impact on your economy is amazing. So we're writing our story in Greenville. I guess I throw the ball back to you now and say, what is Wichita's story, and where can you, figure out your pathway and what you can do. And if we can help out, we'll be glad to. Thank you.